Kaz, you mentioned the Lions being able to just beat up on people offensively, and they went to Green Bay and beat them 24-14. What were your thoughts on the divisional game and the Lions kind of coming down there, letting them know that this is our division? Amon Ra wore a Packers suck hoodie to the game, and I respect him because he wore it before the game. We see the Tyrese Halliburtons wear different clothes post-game, and they do what coming in. So standing on business for them to go in there and handle business. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely picked them to win that game. I said it was going to be a close game. It pretty much came down to the wire. What I noticed really about that game was you look at the running backs. Again, Dave Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs. 73 yards for Montgomery, 65 yards for Jahmyr Gibbs, and a touchdown for Jahmyr Gibbs, okay? You're not going to be able to beat this Lions team unless you stop one or the other. So if you got that entire offense clicking, you're going to lose. Again, if the Detroit Lions' entire offense is clicking through the air with Jared Goff ended up going 18 for 22, 145, a touchdown with no interception. At the end of the day, that's not a bad game. Like, you know, when you really think about it, you don't have to have 250, 300 yards through the air as a quarterback and not have a good game. You pretty much were surgical. You only had 4 incompletions. That's it. And you did enough to beat a division rival. So I just think that the Lions are they're obviously the best team in the NFC right now. Statistically, they are. They have the best record. They're 7-1 now, I believe. And even though I do believe in our Birds and a couple other teams to probably make a surge back, for right now, we got to give credit where credit's due. They went into Lambeau, which is not the easiest place to play, against a Packers team that I feel is going to be a problem in the playoffs if and when they make it to the playoffs. Detroit just proves for another week that they're the best for right now. For right now, they're the best. So not really surprised about the outcome, but what I'll say is this Detroit team, you got to understand, this was one of their worst games, and they still took them to Packers. What happens when they're all clicking on all cylinders against the Packers again? You know, we'll see. So, and they'll be in Detroit. So, unless the Packers figure something out here in the next couple of weeks, I think it's going to look like Detroit's going to take that division big time.
All right, Toddy, I'm going to swing to you next. You were very emotional with your facial expressions. So, what were your thoughts on the Lions beating the Green Bay Packers 24-14?
Well, no, you know, Kaz mentioned there's some other teams that could be surging. San Francisco.
You did not.
I thought for this game,
there's no way.
The Lions beating the Packers, it kind of was a belt to ass type of game. The score does not really reflect on what the actual game was. I think there was a couple of garbage time touchdowns. There was a couple of garbage scores by the Packers to end the game late. But this was over like before like the third quarter. Like
it was over.
Like it was over. If you kind of watch the game. I think one of their best defensive players ended up getting kicked out of this game. He was flipping off the crowd, and they still beat the shit out of him. And the Packers are like one of the teams in the NFC that a lot of people are like, hey, this is a team that could potentially win the NFC. And the Lions went there, and a lot of people are saying, oh, and I think there was like a stat saying like this was the first game the Lions played in that wasn't in a dome.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, oh, well, they only play indoors. And I'm like, okay, well, let's see what they look like on the frozen tundra. And they proceeded to go in and beat the shit out of the Packers. There's another stat. I think it's Jared Goff. I think I mentioned this last week. Jared Goff has more completions, or like he has less incompletions than interceptions or something like that. And that's a crazy stat. And as Kaz already mentioned about, if you're not able to stop David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs and the passing game is rolling, this team is very scary. We saw it in the NFC Championship game last year. They proceeded to beat the shit out of the 49ers in the first half. And then the second half happened, and we kind of saw where that went. But the Lions are a team that I saw last year. I was like, oh, this team is, something that you got to kind of watch out for in the NFC, because they're kind of built like what the Niners were built like a few years ago, by getting, obviously having a guy in Jahmyr Gibbs. They have a $30 million receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Their defense is very much up and coming. When they had Aiden Hutchinson, but lost him to injury, and they got Zadarius Smith today at the trade deadline. So, and they have they have 2 head coaches on their roster right now. And Actually, you could argue that 3. With Ben Johnson as their offensive coordinator, obviously Dan Campbell, and then Aaron Glenn as their defensive coordinator, who has been scheming his ass off in the past couple of games. So a lot of teams tend to poach off of very good rosters. As you guys probably know, that you've lost both of your coordinators in the past couple of years. The Niners have lost multiple coordinators in the past couple of years. So when you're really good, other teams start to, poach at your rock star hires in your coordinators, and you have to learn to see how good you can be. But for right now, the Lions are one of those teams in the NFL that, the only loss that they have to, I forget who it is. It was to
Baker Mayfield.
Right. It was the Bucks. That's really their only blemish of the year so far, and they've looked outstanding. They've let nothing shy of less than the best team in the NFC. So, just going down the line, we'd have to see if they're able to keep this up. But right now, they lost Aiden Hutchinson. It really doesn't look like they've lost a beat at all. So, they're able to win indoors. They're able to win in the coldest of weathers in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So, they can win anywhere, because if you're able to run the ball, that's going to travel in the playoffs. And if you're able to defend, if you're able to stop the run and run the ball in the playoffs, that's going to travel anywhere you go. So, and I don't even imagine the Lions, they're probably going to be playing at home the entire playoffs. Like, everything's probably going to go through Detroit.
Yeah, man. You guys went in and you said how dominant this run game is. Yes, they have been playing. They've only played in the dome, but when, like Toddy mentioned, when you have a run game like this, it carries no matter where you're playing. And I knew the Lions were going to win this game when their staff comes out, no hoodies, ready to go. You look at Green Bay, they got hoodies, they got sweaters. I said, yeah, man, they not ready. They looking at this game. And I know Jordan Love was questionable going into this game, and he looked kind of timid to me. So it was interesting to kind of see him play this defense like this. He definitely looks like he's still banged up. But I wouldn't have been surprised if Malik Willis would have went out there, because they are 2-0, 3-0 with Malik Willis. Either one. But Jared Goff is the ultimate game manager. He has officially stolen that title from Brock Purdy. He handed the ball off 28 times. And he has not thrown an incompletion to Amon-Ra St. Brown since September, ladies and gentlemen. September. They have been on a tear. And he doesn't have, like Tony said, he doesn't have to go out there and throw 300, or no, Cad maybe 200, 300 yards. We saw a couple weeks ago when he went 10 for 10 for $190. They win the game. He's efficient. He's going to go out there and he's not going to turn the ball over. Unlike Toddy's guy, Jordan Love, who's thrown an interception in every game he's played in. But unless his name is Jalen Hurts, no one really gives a fuck, I guess. So
nope.
All good. We saw Josh Jacobs, really come out to himself, 13 carries for 95 yards. If they can rely on that run game and get something productive outside of Jaden Reed in the passing game, the Packers can be what we all thought they were going to be. That's one of the top teams in the NFC.